Okay, this video is a demonstration on how to make each of the parts for the mug tree project. So we're going to start by going to New, making sure the metric is on, and Standard Millimeter Inventor part file. So we're going to start by making the base. The base is made up of two parts which form like a cross halving joint. So I'm going to make the lower of the two parts first of all. So once Inventor is open, I'm going to start a new 2D sketch. And I'm going to start that on the horizontal ground plane. I'm going to start by drawing a rectangle, and once again sketch the rectangle and then dimension it to size. So the dimensions that I'm going to use are 140 long and it is 35 wide. Once I've actually done that rectangle, I finish the sketch and then I extrude it. So in extruding it, I'm giving it a height. The height I'm going to give it is the thickness of the material, which is 12 millimeters. Okay, I'm going to add a chamfer onto the two ends, a 6mm chamfer. So up in the top, I click on chamfer. I'm going to change the size of the chamfer to 6, and then I'm going to click on the two top edges at both ends and apply. Okay, so the last thing to do to this part of the base is to create the recess for the cross halving. So I'm going to start a sketch on the top surface. I'm going to draw a rectangle which starts at one side and goes all the way to the other, and dimension it. Now between the rectangle is to be 35 wide, and from the edge to the start of the first rectangle is 52.5 millimeters. That puts it perfectly in the middle. So I finish sketch at that and then extrude. So I need to select the rectangle, and instead of joining it on, I'm going to cut it away, or subtract as the SQL like it to be known, and I'm going to change the distance to be 6 and OK. Okay, so I notice I've got a little bit on the end here. That's just because when I did my initial sketch, I didn't take it all the way to the edge. You can see there, so I'm just going to pull it a little bit up like that and finish sketch, and that should get rid of it. Okay, so that's the first part. So I'm going to say File, Save As at that point. I'm going to save it into my documents. I'm going to create a new folder called Mugtree, and I'm going to call it as base part 1. Okay, so I've done that there. Okay, so that's the first part done. So we're going to then move on to the second part, the other half of the base. Now, instead of starting the whole thing from scratch, what I'm actually going to do after I've saved this is I'm going to delete away the extrusion. I'm just going to right click on top of that and say delete, because the second part is basically the same, but what I do is I turn the object over and I start to draw the sketch on the bottom here. So I'm going to start a sketch on the bottom, and it's the same rectangle that I did before. It's going to start on the rectangle, finish on the rectangle, and it is 35 between them. And the distance from the edge to the first one is 52.5 again. Finish sketch and extrude. Okay, I'll just get into a slightly better view. There we go. So I'm going to subtract that by 6 millimeters. And now what I've got is the other piece of the base. Now, this one is also going to have what's called a mortise in it for the mortise and tenon joint to join the stem together. So the last thing I'm going to do is a sketch on the top surface. I'm going to draw a rectangle somewhere in the middle here. Okay, I'm just going to draw it in about there. The dimensions of it is it's 20 long, it's 6 wide, and I need to get it in the middle. So from the edge to there is going to be 14.5 millimeters, and from the edge to there is going to be 60 millimeters. And I'm going to finish my sketch there and extrude, cut that little bit away by 6 millimeters. And that is me now done the the second part of the base. So I would do File, Save As, and I would call that one Base Part 2. Okay, so now we'll move on to the third part, which is the stem. So we're doing a new this time, standard MM. I'm going to start by, on the ground plane, drawing a square. So I'm just going to use the rectangle to do that. And I'm going to dimension it as 20 millimeters by 20 millimeters. And I finish the sketch. And I'm going to extrude that by 320 millimeters long. And that gives me the stem. Okay, so I've got some holes to put into this. First thing I'm going to do is put some holes on one side. So start a sketch on this first side here. And I'm going to do the first hole, which is in the middle. It's a 9 millimeter hole, so I'll dimension it 9. From the base to the center of the hole is going to be 120. And then I'm going to do a second hole, still in the center, in line with that one. It's 9 millimeters in diameter still, and the dimension from the center of that hole to the center of that hole is going to be 180. And finish sketch. I'm going to extrude, click inside both holes. This time I'm going to be cutting them, and I only have to go through it by 20, and OK. So that gives me the first two holes for the dowels to go through. I'm now going to start a sketch on the second side and do exactly the same. So circle up in the middle there, diameter 9, and dimension from the bottom to the center of the hole is going to be 210. And I'm going to say finish sketch at that and extrude. Cut. And OK. So that's me got the 3 holes for the dowels to go through. If I rotate it around, you can see those holes go all the way through. So on the bottom of this, I'm now going to sketch some rectangles for the mortise and tenon joint. So I'm going to use rectangle, starting right on the corner. I'm going to come down, and then I'm going to do the same, starting on this corner. I'm going to come down. Dimension from the edge to here is meant to be 7. And the same for this one, from here to here is going to be 7. Finish my sketch, and I'm going to extrude those away. Okay, so if I show you what that's going to look like, I'll do extrude. Click inside both rectangles. I'm going to cut them 6 millimeters deep, and OK. And what that has given me is a tenon that can fit inside the base part. Okay, the last part of this that I'm going to do is I'm going to have a go at making a little square pyramid on the top, and I'm going to use chamfer for that. And I'm going to set the distance of the chamfer to 10, and I'm going to just do each one surface at a time. So I'll click on this one and apply, then I'll click on the one next to it and apply, then I'll rotate it round and I'll click on the next one and apply. Now I can't do the last one because there is no bit to apply, but I've now got 3 of the sides done. So what I now do is I say start a sketch on this surface, and I'll go all the way back up here. I'm going to project this corner onto my sketch, and I'm going to project this line onto my sketch, and it means I can then draw a line going from there to there, a line going from there to there, and then lastly a line going from there back down to there. So I've drawn a little triangle, which I'll show you what that looks like. And I'm just going to say extrude, cut, and it's got to go through at least 20 millimeters, and OK, and that removes the last side. So having done that, I'm going to save that part now as the stem. So File, Save As, and we're going to save that as the stem. Okay, the last part are the dowels. They're going to need 3 of them, but I only have to make 1. So File, New, once again standard millimeters. The holes that I drew were 9 millimeters in diameter, so I'm going to make the dowels 9 millimeters in diameter. Like that there. Finish sketch and extrude by 140. That's the length of the dowels. So that's it. File, save as, and save that as the dowel. Okay, that's all the parts of the mug tree made. That's the end of this demonstration video. The second video will now take you on how to actually assemble the parts together.